This is the Ramana Maharshi Satsang. I'm reading and commenting on the essence of Yoga Vasishta, and we're on the first chapter, which is about dispassion, verses 17 through 20. Welcome. This is Richard Clarke. I'm reading from and commenting on verses from the essence of Yoga Vasishta, a text loved by Ramana Maharshi. I'm not a teacher or a guru, just someone sharing teaching that I love. And the Yoga Vasishta is one of the great classics of Advaita Vedanta. It teaches of the illusion of the world, the self, and liberation. Today, verses 17 through 20. On the dissolution of the body, the ether, consciousness limited by the heart, hridam, alone ceases to exist. People lament needlessly that the self is extinct. When pots, etc., are broken, the space within them becomes unlimited. So also, when bodies cease to exist, the self remains eternal and unattached. Nothing whatever is born or dies at any time. It is Brahman alone appearing illusorily in the form of the world. The self is more extensive than space. It is pure, subtle, undecaying, and auspicious. As such, how could it be born, and how can it die? So let's go through these verses. Verse 17. On the dissolution of the body, the ether, consciousness, limited by the heart, hridam, alone ceases to exist. People lament needlessly that the self is extinct. Vasishta is pointing out that the end of a body does not mean the end of consciousness. What seems to die is only the physical form that once seemed to hold awareness within its framework. Consciousness, being infinite, was never truly confined inside the heart or body, just as space is never really confined within a jar. The body is a temporary conditioning and a vessel through which consciousness seems to function. When that idea of being a body breaks down, the limitless awareness continues unchanged. The sorrow that arises at death is based on ignorance of the truth of limitless awareness and misidentification with the body. The self, being eternal, never ceases. What disappears is only the mistaken identification with the body. For your practice, this verse reminds you not to identify yourself with the body, its condition, or its eventual decay. Grief arises from thinking of yourself as limited to the form of the body. As you deepen awareness, Notice that what observes the body's condition is itself untouched. This insight changes your relationship to death and loss. You begin to rest in that which was never born and never dies. Knowing this frees you from fear and brings deep peace in the face of impermanence. Verse 18. When pots, etc., are broken, the space within them becomes unlimited. So also, when bodies cease to exist, the self remains eternal and unattached. Vasishta uses a clear image. The space inside a pot seems separate only while the pot is whole. When the pot breaks, the illusion of separation disappears, and there is only one undivided space. In the same way, the body gives a sense of me and you, as if consciousness were divided. When the body dies, what actually happens is the illusion of division ends. Consciousness was never bound by the body, just as space is never bound by the pot. This verse helps you see that individuality is a temporary appearance, and your true identity is the one consciousness pervading all forms. This verse helps you approach life with less grasping. You can appreciate the body as an instrument without mistaking it for your identity. When you truly know the self as unattached and always, compassion and freedom arise naturally. You stop fearing death, and you stop treating others as separate. Every encounter becomes an expression of Brahman, the vast consciousness, meeting itself. You begin to live from the quiet certainty that no one really goes anywhere. Verse 19, nothing whatever is born or dies anywhere at any time. It is Brahman alone appearing illusorily in the form of the world. Here, Vasishta strips away all ideas of creation and destruction. What seems to appear, live, and then vanish is all only Brahman, taking on the appearance of names and forms, like waves rising and falling in the ocean. Brahman is ajata, without beginning, uncreated. The idea of birth and death belongs to appearances, belongs to the wave, not the ocean, not to the truth. Brahman itself never changes. This vision overturns your ordinary sense of existence. What you take as beginnings and endings are only fluctuations, waves within the one undivided reality. Nothing ever really starts or ends. Only perception shifts. This knowledge leads to unshakable peace. As you absorb this, your spiritual life becomes simpler. You see that the entire play of the world, even including your own story, happens in Brahman, as Brahman. You can stop struggling to control what comes and goes. Knowledge of this truth dissolves fear and ambition alike. You rest as the witnessing consciousness that neither begins nor ends. Each moment becomes a natural expression of the self, not an effort to secure or defend anything temporarily. The self is more extensive than space. It is pure, subtle, undecaying, and auspicious. As such, how could it be born? And how can it die? Vasishta affirms the infinite nature of the self. Space seems like it is vast, but even space appears within consciousness. The self has no boundary, form, or age. It doesn't arise from anything, nor return to anything. The self simply is. To think of it as being born or dying is absurd. It is the constant presence in which every perception arises. The qualities described, pure, subtle, undecaying, point to the living awareness you can directly know when thoughts subside. This verse redirects your attention from the transient and changing to the changeless, from what you perceive to what you truly are. In practice, this verse invites you to rest as the awareness behind every experience. When you sit quietly and know your own presence, you can recognize that this knowingness does not age or alter. It is the background of all phenomena. By identifying with the knowing presence instead of with passing forms, you find the natural freedom that Vasishta calls auspicious. You discover that the self has never been touched by time or any event, and that realization itself is liberation. These verses reveal that the self is eternal, unbounded, and untouched by the birth or death of the body. They lead you to see that only forms appear and vanish, while your true nature remains pure awareness, ever present and free. And now a video, a discourse from Nome. This self is Brahman.
The immeasurable existence is Brahman. And the Upanishads declare, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. It pertains to the knowledge of Brahman, and it pertains to the knowledge of the self. For Brahman is to be known only in a non-objective manner. And the self is to be known as the pure, unalloyed existence that it is. What is this self? That is, what is your very existence? Though there is nothing apart from the existence, for the existence itself, there is nothing else at all. Try to discern the existence, the innermost consciousness, as it is. It is not a body, and it is not embodied. The attributes of the body and the qualities of the body do not pertain to that. The limitations of the body, the conditions of the body, do not pertain to that. Likewise, the action and inaction of the body do not pertain to that. The birth and death of the body do not pertain to that. Attributeless, qualityless, actionless, unborn and imperishable. Such is your existence. And this very existence, this very self, is Brahman, of the nature of being, consciousness, bliss. Though nothing is known apart from the consciousness that knows it, the consciousness itself, innermost, is not to be equated with what is conceived. Whatever is conceived in thought is not this self. If you do not regard yourself as being anything produced by thought, anything conceived in thought, what remains? That which remains is true knowledge. If the limitation of the falsely assumed individuality is cast off as being unreal, one finds that this self, one's very existence, is Brahman. In Brahman, the infinite and the eternal, is found all peace and all happiness and all freedom. To abide in such, abide as such. Abidance is knowledge, not something sensorially perceived, not something mentally conceived, but true knowledge, non-objective knowledge, knowledge in which one's very being is the knowledge. Inquire. Inquire within. Who am I? What is this self? According to the definition attributed to the self, all else will appear. Who am I? What is this self? To know this self with transcendent knowledge is to know reality. Brahman is reality. The self alone exists. If there appears to be anything other at any time, inquire for whom it is. Clarity of knowledge regarding the self reveals there is nothing else ever. Reality is only one. The self is only one. For the sake of lasting peace, for the sake of perfectly full happiness, and for the sake of freedom from all of the imagined bondage, know this self.
And now we're going to take a few minutes and inquire. You exist. Notice that you exist, and you know that you exist. Now inquire, investigate within yourself. When the body falls away, what remains that has always been aware? If the body is like a pot and the self is space, who am I without the limits of this body? What remains constant before birth and after death? When all thoughts are silent, what remains that cannot decay or change? Who am I? What am I? What is the nature of my existence? All right. Then we'll close with a chant. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Peace. Thank you.
All right. What did you get from the session today?
Deep peace. Very deep peace. Thank you. Yeah, lovely. The gift of silence, too. Stillness. Yeah.
Well, peace and stillness is what we are looking for, and it's what we are.
Yeah.
That's the thing that is silly about this,
Silly.
is we spend our life looking for what we already are.
Yeah. We have an intuition, I think. That's who we are.
Yes,
And when we get close to it, we feel that. I sense that spurana, that
and that
whatever it is.
intuition is grace.
Yeah, amen. Really is. I was once went on a 21-day prayer retreat, and it wasn't until the third or fourth day that I realized what a gift I'd been given. But it took me that long to get it.
Hmm.
And ever since then, I've treasured stillness and peace, really, and quietness, really treasured it. And people look at me like, why is it that you love it so much? And I said, well, I don't know how to answer that until you really experience it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the only thing that disturbs our peace is our mind.
Yeah.
I had never heard of Ramana Maharshi. I was introduced to him here, and from the more I've learned, the more I realize how true his teachings are.
Amen.
I've
Yes.
run through a lot of changes in my life, but I always had this feeling, this kind of an inkling, that there was something inside me that hadn't changed.
Yes.
No matter what I did, and I did a lot, but there was I knew there was something there. So, it's good. It's good to figure it out.
That's a precious knowledge. And again, that is knowledge that you don't get from thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's knowledge that you get from experiencing it directly.
Very subtle gift, though. And sometimes I think it's so subtle that most people can't get it, can't
Hmm.
be still enough, can't sink into it, or can't believe that it's there. It's almost like there's too much noise.
Right, it is too much noise,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
And the noise is noise that we make ourselves basically because of our desires and what we think we need to do to be happy.
yeah,
the sense of being happy, the intuition about happiness is correct. It's just we are looking for it in the wrong place.
And very few people even suggest that it's found by sinking within. Yeah.
It's definitely not on that show. Let's make a deal behind it.
That's right. We don't have the Ramana quiz show.
Mm.
Anyway, thank you all for coming together again today and have good inquiry, and I'll see you next week.
Thank
Namaste.
you so much, brother. Thank you. Thank you all.
Asti.
Thank you.